And welcome in, fine citizens. Great to have you here for another great edition, another stupendous edition of Ring the Bell Investing with the masters of Marketocracy. I know we got some special guests watching tonight, including my nephew, the Owiz. So very excited about that. But let's bring in the masters, and we'll start with the man himself, the CEO, the CIO, the CFO, the BIO, the TAHA. What other titles can we give you? It's the great Tony Mitchell.
Thank you, Dan. Great to be here. Great to have you here with us again this week, this month.
It's always, it's this week, this month, this year. The days run together, but that's because we're having so much fun. And how about the CTO, the only title that Tony doesn't have? It is the great Glenn Bright. Listen, you guys are both masters. Titles don't matter. You're both at the top level of what you do. So we're grateful to have you both here. But Glenn Braunworth, always a pleasure. Great to see you as well.
Thank you for having me here.
Hey, it's
a color spectrum there.
By the way, Glenn got a brand new green screen.
Yeah, is that working okay?
Yes, Glenn is a very good-looking guy, but I got to tell you, it's like when news. If you guys remember, when like the news stations went to HD, like whatever it was 17 years ago, you could see everything. And Glenn, you look even better. So like you went from like being above average to now really above average.
Awesome. I'm glad to be here and above average, especially in my rankings.
Yes, it is great to be with you both, and there's a lot to get into. Let's start with this, and I do want to, in the business we call it a tease, because coming up in a little bit, I thought, speaking of my nephew, who's about to. By the way, him and his dad just went to Pittsburgh to see the Tigers play the Pirates. Unfortunately, both games the Tigers lost, including a walk-off. But Oren got to drive like the whole way home, which is very scary to me. I don't know how his dad figured out how to allow that to happen, but he did a good job. But there's something that is very interesting that Oren, who's really into investing as a youngster, brought up to me. So we'll get to that in a little bit. So that's the tease for you. But let's start with this when it comes to AI. We talked about this recently, guys. It's obviously not only is it here to stay, but it's a huge deal. Some people not much colder on AI. We've seen a lot of reports recently where these companies are putting so much alleged profit on the sheets, the balance sheets, but is it really are they really making money? Are they really worth investing in? There's definitely a lot of stuff to kind of dive in here, but I want to talk about CAPEX versus monetization as far as the dilemma goes with that, where you got this return of investment bottleneck. Because, with big tech hyperscalers projecting nearly $730 billion in AI capital expenditures, I know a lot of institutional investors are asking, when will the revenue show up? And this is kind of something that, Tony and Glenn, I've alluded to on recent shows. And as I said, I've covered the markets for a long time. I remember specifically about a year or so ago, you're hearing all this stuff about OpenAI. You're hearing all these things about some of these companies going public, and there's no way these stocks won't go to the moon. But then people are saying, where's the profit? Where's the way you can actually show this and not just people putting money in? So Tony, I'll start with you on this, because I know that you guys both have strong feelings about where we're at with AI, because it's here. It's not going anywhere. It is the future. It's the present, and it could be amazing for so many different things. But then there's people that are going to question, is there a bottom that's going to fall out? We've seen a lot of stuff in the news on that lately.
Yeah, it's a great question, and certainly one all investors have been asking. I think what really settled a lot of investors down was the Amazon conference call when Andy Jassy spoke to the profitability and gave clear sight and vision of the profitability. So I think we're okay here. There's certainly going to be some companies falling out because of they might not make the profit they expect. But I think the Mag 7, let's say, even SpaceX, they are going to make the dollars. And, I'll clarify on SpaceX. I mean, it's one of the hyperscalers, and it's tied right into this AI thing. And I said when it just came public and shot up to over $200, I think it was $230 to about $230 at one point. I know it's above 220. And I wrote a piece in the newsletter and said, hey, this is why I'm not buying. This is going to fall back below the IPO price. And sure enough, it fell all the way back to about 106 or so. Now it's made its way back up a little bit. But I think if you watch for that double bottom, if you see it below 110, that's a good entry on SpaceX.
Yeah, and we talked about SpaceX on this show. That's one of the stocks I told my nephew to invest in. I think he made 10 cents. He was super excited. He bought a little more. Glenn, going to you and just kind of to delve a little further this. I know that markets are obviously penalizing companies that are making these massive infrastructure investments if they can't show the tangible enterprise deployment and the expanding software margins. And once again, the question to you too: are investors safe in these hyperscalers and just kind of where we're at in this age of AI, if you will?
I think it's not only the hyperscalers; it's that they actually buy so much product, they buy so much hardware, they buy so much material. But the truth is, a lot of developers and even people working in their garage, they need RAM to actually make their models work correctly. So it doesn't matter if you're in a gigantic data center or in somebody's basement or their garage, they need RAM, they need a CPU, they need GPU. All the pieces that make up a computer, you're going to need it. Now, from a revenue point of view, every single company in the S&P 500 made their numbers and actually beat their numbers in most regards. So they're making revenue somewhere, and it's coming from something, but it's like the beginning of the railroads. There were 3,000 railroads back in the 1800s, and then they were all, merged together to make it actually much more efficient, right? But then we're at a point like that. But it's going to come sooner or later. It's coming. Like, this is kind of one of the outputs we got from 30 years of building the internet is
right.
The actual tangible thing other than shopping malls and X-rated stuff or what have you. We're actually getting something useful. And, I've used AI. I played around with a bunch of different tools. And when you use them carefully and they can make mistakes and, they're really good for brainstorming. And I think there is something to it. And I think there is revenue being driven by these companies. So I think there is something to it.
We got some live viewers today, including Peace Play Editor saying, "What's up, Squatch?" So we got people that are floating around. I know that my nephew has helped get some. The kids call them subs, guys. So he's gotten some subs for the Marketocracy page. So we're excited about that. Glenn, I'm going to stay with you. I want to move on to this. Speak kind of in the same realm in a way. Data center power demands are incredibly surging, causing a lot of investors to ask who will power this AI revolution. I know focus is kind of shifting toward nuclear energy, grid modernization, and optical networking hardware. Excuse me. I think I can talk today, maybe. But first, before I get to the question, you're seeing these data centers everywhere. You're seeing some communities get mad about data centers, but they're going to be put in regardless. Do you see opportunities here, Glenn?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of opportunities in the energy sector right now. One of the issues with nuclear power is you're never going to get that built. Nobody wants that. NIMBY, right? Not in my backyard. So a lot of companies are just trying to refurbish older plants. They're actually doing it in Michigan right now. This plant that they shut down or has been running on a limited basis, they've actually started rebuilding it, and it's going to cost $2.5 billion to actually rebuild this thing that's came online in, I think, 1972. It's been around for a long time. And these power plants, they wear out more quickly because of the radioactivity. Now, if it takes years to get these things online versus building solar arrays or battery packs, or there's a variety of other tools, it's whichever is more expensive. Is this more expensive or that one? And that's where it's going to end up being. And the data centers, it will take them so long. Like, somebody told me about 3 Mile Island that Microsoft wants to turn it back on again.
Right.
But
I saw that. That's kind of crazy to me.
I really don't believe that. I mean, people are going to resist, and by the time it goes through the legal battles, you can build a solar array. You can put up wind turbines, do batteries, and there are alternatives. They talk about base load power, and there are a lot of alternatives to that. That term will actually go away after a while, I think, with these newer technologies. But the data centers, I can see my power bill going up. Yep. And I don't want it either. I mean, I think I want to go to solar now and batteries. It's at the point now over the past 15 years where it's down over 95%. That's gigantic.
Things going up, unavoidable. I mean, and Tony, to you, and listen, there's a lot of grassroots stuff. There could be data center revolts, but that money talks and blank walks. So they're not going anywhere. And you can have as many community meetings as you want, but if you got people that are investing billions, and it's going to power this whole, as we mentioned, AI revolution and different infrastructure for all the different computing things and for what we need. And Glenn made a great point about, going to solar and going to these other alternatives, which we probably should have done 20, 30, 40 years ago. It would have helped climate change more than it has without not doing it and still using coal and other dirty, things that hurt the environment. But what do you see opportunities here with all this, Tony?
Yeah, absolutely. And since you just talked about solar, I want to highlight that one of our other masters, Dan Wyman, couldn't be with us tonight, but Dan's been all over First Solar for a long time. And I'm sure if he were here tonight, that'd be the first one he'd be talking about. I think there's great opportunity in First Solar, but also when you look at the infrastructure that has to be built out and the optical networks. I mean, Corning is the leader in that, and their stocks actually pulled back a little from some of the highs it hits, but I think you're good in Corning again. And I love all the electrical plays. Glenn hit it, talking about worried about his electric bill down the road. I mean, there's a lot of ways that we're going to see this energy play out, but there's some good electric companies right now paying some decent dividends that I feel really good about just being in right now, collecting that dividend and letting them grow slowly while you collect this nice dividend too. So a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, and by the way, I can't believe that Dan is not here with a great name like that. So we'll give him his due here and talk about First Solar and Corning. But we got to get Dan in the two Dans is always better than one Dan, right?
There you go.
So as I mentioned, and we're going to get to some other stuff too. We're going to get to some stuff when it comes to monetary policy and macro resilience and geopolitics as well. But as I mentioned, I wanted to throw this out there to you guys because we've got my nephew watching Oren the OWIS and some of his friends that are all about to be sophomores in high school. But Oren wants to create his own stock club, and I'm going to do the kid a favor, and we don't have to go through all of his stocks, but I do want to throw this up because I just think that it's fascinating to me because he's been asking, he's like, what should I invest in? We're at the pool. He's like, what should I put, $2, $5, $7, $8 in? And it reminds us, I think, guys, that there are people out there that are going to be investing thousands of dollars a minute. There's people out there that are investing $5 a day, and yet it gets everyone hopefully to the same place. And I think that that's a really cool thing that, this show, you guys have talked about trying to help people at any level. It doesn't matter if they're buying a stock, and spending $10K or if they're putting $5 or $10 in. So I wanted to throw this up. Here's some stocks. And by the way, Tony, credit to you because I told him to get Mattel, and he got Mattel, and I think he made 15 cents. He was very excited. And I know he was very into Invesco QQQ, SanDisk. I told him about SpaceX. He made some money on that. Alibaba, NVIDIA. So he's got some good stuff there. Just, less about the stocks he has, more about what is important for young, early investors to understand that this is really a great way to make yourself money and set yourself up for life.
Yeah, absolutely. The younger you are when you start investing, the better you are. And I love it. I love talking to young people about investing. We have a couple of games to help teach too. One, we're going to be launching here by the 1st of September, our Marketocracy stock picking contest, which is a great way for any youngster to get involved and see how they do without putting up any money. They get to practice picking stocks, competing against everybody else in the contest. And we start everybody with $1 million of virtual money to pick stocks with and see how you do over the long term. So if you're listening and you haven't signed up, sign up at marketocracy.io, and we'll keep you informed as that launches. But we've actually already been developing a board game too to help people learn about investing. Board game, though, we kind of put on the back burners because of the contest online, but we're going to roll out some more games in the future too. So we're real excited about helping young people invest.
I love it. You can see all the information down there about getting involved in the stock because we will get Oren. Is there an age limit on that? Do you have to be 21 or can you be a youngster?
You can be a youngster. No age limit.
We're going to get, and I know there's also the possibility, I won't give all the details away, but coming up in the next month or so, there could be something that will be very interesting to younger people too by watching the show, and they can win some special stuff, right, Tony?
Absolutely. I'm going to give it away. We're going to give away some Roblox gift cards.
Ooh, Roblox! That's going to bring them all in.
Yeah. So we want to cater to the youngsters as well as everybody, of course. But hey, the best time to start investing is yesterday, because of the power of compounding. The longer you invest, the more money you're going to end up having. Even Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors in the world, claims that part of his great success is living a long time because he slowly built it up. But the power of compounding, he really got it to where he was in his later years. So
that's great.
He actually, Warren Buffett said that if you don't find a way to make money while you're asleep, you're going to work every day of your life all the way to the end, whether you want to or not. And we're here to say there's a way to do that without having to do that.
That's great, Glenn. And I want to emphasize, because a lot of people don't understand that. They look at money they've got saved and it's like they want to spend it, or like, what am I going to do with this? Money makes you money. If you got that money invested, you're making money while you're sleeping because of dividends and compounding and growth. So that's a great point, Glenn.
Beautifully said by you both. And I know Oren is, maybe we can get like a little stock team from them. Like it'll be like a high school stock team that will be part of that contest, and we'll see how good they can do against the Masters. So appreciate that both from you guys. All right, let's get back into this, because there's a lot more to get to before we get to our stock picks for today. Speaking, as I mentioned, of monetary policy and the macro resilience, the rate path, if you will, Tony, with core inflation remaining sticky and the labor market showing very, very mixed signals, I know investors, including people watching the show, want to know if the Fed is going to hold interest rates higher for longer or cut to support economic growth. What say you, Master Mitchell?
Well, I've been pretty firm that they're not going to raise, and that we will see some cuts. It's as inflation is slow to come down, I get a little bit worried about that position. But I still believe that they're not going to raise. They might not cut as soon as I expected them to, but I don't believe they're going to raise. And Warsh is working on a few different things at the Fed. Yesterday, we heard Bessent talk about buying back some bonds a little bit more, and the rates fell, which really accelerated the market yesterday. So I think, with the current administration, with Kevin Warsh in there, as long as nothing crazy happens, I think we're going to see kind of steady on the rates right now. Steady, but no rates.
Good stuff, Tony. What say you, Master Bronworth?
I would kind of agree with Tony here. I think they're just kind of, play it steady like they do a lot. Their only real tools is to either raise or lower, the interest rate and maybe adjust the money supply, which has been down for the last 5 years. And I think, inflation's about 3.5% to 4%, somewhere in there. I don't know the exact number, but it's not gigantic from where it used to be. So I'll counter blessings, but the dumbest trade war in history and the dumb thing going on in the Middle East right now is causing pain, but it's actually causing adjustments throughout the global economy, right? Every company that can't, deal with whatever product they need through that corridor is going to go elsewhere. And eventually everybody will pay the price because everybody's customers are going to go elsewhere.
Right.
So I don't think they're going to touch it right now, because I think that would actually probably make it worse. Later on in the fall, after the election, who knows? Then they might actually raise a little bit. But right now, I think they're going to ride it out for the next 2 months, just for people's sanity.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about something that is unavoidably to be touched, because it's in the news the last couple of days. The debt, national debt, $40 trillion, which is just a staggering number. And when you think about, obviously, geopolitics right now with all the things going on around the world, supply chains, fiscal risk, national sovereign debt, as I kind of alluded to, high public debt levels in major economies have investors, I know, questioning long-term bond yields and fiscal stability, Glenn. When it comes to all this stuff, when you look at just where we're at with, obviously, the debt in the United States, there's debt around the world, there's all these different things going on. Oil prices still high, gas still high. It's just a very interesting time. It doesn't mean there's not a way to make money, because of course there always is, but $40 trillion is insane. I mean, I can't say that enough. It is a staggering number. Obviously, America is the richest country in the world, but it's unsustainable, Glenn. Am I crazy to say that?
No. But the thing is, that money is mostly owed to ourselves in a way.
We're letting ourselves money and bringing it back.
It's true. I'll throw my econ degree in here. In 1946, we created the Bretton Woods system, which is the global monetary system. And when we did that, we built it for us. And since we're an ocean-locked country, we had to make sure that the ocean lanes would be open, and that's why we spend our military budget about 3.8% of our GDP to basically patrol the sea lanes. But now we've kind of turned inward a little bit more, and now we're not going to do that as much. But that's why that system, if you want to be part of it, cool. If not, oh well. Like people say Brexit, or people want to do BRICS and go off and buy rubles or yuan. It's like, okay, there's nobody else to do business with us. They always want to have Benjamin Franklin's, right?
Yeah, it's nothing better than the American dollar. The dollar, exactly. the dollar.
Yep. And if you travel overseas, if you try to give people their own currency and you have your money, American currency, they're like, we don't want our currency. They actually want American currency.
Well, good. Isn't the old saying, cash is king, but American cash is king?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that has something to do with that. And I'm sure if you did a search on Google, you could find the comparison between our debt to like GDP ratio and what, say, China is, which is just off the charts because
way more.
Everybody's been investing in real estate there, but nobody wants the buildings. So supposedly there's something like, I don't know, 1 million apartments for every human being right now, like in all of China. And there's only so many humans to fill them. And because of the way nobody owns property, people could only invest in real estate that was owned by the government. And now it's not really going to be worth a lot. So you could put your money in our economy, or you could put your money there, even with that inflation. And still, it is really high. But if you think about what the rest of the economy is doing, it's actually not that high in perspective. Right. I know people in economics or would hear that and go, oh God, but it sounds so big. But yeah, our GDP is gigantic compared to that, and it's debt we owe to ourselves. It's bonds that we owe money on, everybody buys our bonds,
I thought you were opening up and you started to tell us that you got your degree in economics in 1946, but
yeah, that's what I thought too. And by the way, in the future, Glenn, I'm gonna make a call back to my old great radio partner Dennis 50 from 97.1. When you say something like I got my econ, you gotta go, I got my econ degree. That's you gotta bring out the mustache. That's what me and Dennis.
I left my black hat, my graduation hat.
Whenever I would say something like, yeah, when I took my history 404 class, you always had to do the mustache. Tony, great stuff though, Glenn. Let's go back to you, Toad Squatch, and on the same thing with all the stuff going on around the world. The war in Ukraine still going. Obviously, the war with Iran. You call it an excursion if you want, but it ain't. And all this debt, and obviously the number coming out recently, $40 trillion debt for this country. I think Glenn explained it really well, that it is a lot of us lending money to ourselves, and American cash is king. But, it does, other countries' debt can affect that as well. I know for a long, not that it's not a problem anymore, but for decades, African debt was a big problem. A lot of people wanted, America and other countries to forgive African debt. There's issues with that all around the world, and I just wonder where you're at with all of that.
Yeah, so I think there's a few good points that you and Glenn both made. First of all, it is a scary number, as you said. But I like a lot of things that Glenn said as well about the debt. And, there's an interesting book that's called The Deficit, the Deficit Myth. And it's about modern monetary policy, written by Professor Stephanie Kelton. And if you ever get a chance to read or listen to the book, it's very interesting how she offers a different perspective on why the debt is really not that scary and how we can almost eliminate the debt. And I won't get into it too deep, but it's a very well written, thought out book, and it really offers another alternative. And the one thing I always go to is what people don't realize is, what's the safest investment in the world? U.S. Treasury bonds, right? Well, guess what? If we had no debt, there'd be no Treasury bonds to invest in. And a lot of people rely on that for their investments. So a lot of people, I don't think, put it together that, if we wiped out the debt, guess what? We'd have no Treasury bonds, and people wouldn't be able to invest for that super secure amount. So I think people will find that interesting, and people don't really put that together. But I'm not, it's easy to be worried about it. And it's hard to say I'm not worried about the debt because it is a staggering number, but I'm not too worried about it, actually. And I think there's ways that it can work itself down. One thing I like that President Trump has done is got investments now in different businesses that basically were given to the government that will help. It's an income source and it's an asset of the people of America now, of the people of the United States, that at some point in time can help reduce some of that deficit. So touchy subject, but I'm not too worried about it.
Well, if the go ahead, Glenn.
Well, it's in reference to Tony talking about owning companies. We really don't want Uncle Sam to own companies. Like, technically, we owned Chrysler back in 1980 for a little while. We gave him debt. Lee Iacocca paid it back at your time. Right. That's a little bit different. You want some help, but just it's like we want you to get back on your feet, and then you want us to not own you anymore, and you go off and do you don't want Uncle Sam owning you, because government is the worst business to be in. We want these companies to get help if they need it, and they're being run competently, not like in 2008 where the mortgage companies were doing a lot of shady stuff, right? Yep. But still, it's like too big to fail. Maybe they shouldn't be too big to exist, that kind of thing.
By the way, if people haven't seen the movie Too Big to Fail, watch it. It is phenomenal. By the way, there's a great new movie too called Dumb Money about the whole Wall Street bets GameStop thing that happened. That's another great movie. People haven't seen that. But no, I was going to say, if the masters aren't that worried, then I'm not that worried. And that's why we do this show, because you guys are the masters for a reason. Well, let's get to one of the favorite parts of the show that everyone loves: high valuations for steep value. Where do we put cash to work? What is your best pick today? We will start with the CTO, Glenn Braunwood.
Well, in reference to what you just said about GameStop, right?
Is GameStop your pick? If it is, I'm not putting it up.
No.
I'm just kidding.
What it is before I get to the stock, it's that people figured out that by being in forums, right? And they saw that that company was overshorted, meaning that there was like 100 million shares shorted for a company that only had 80 million. And the regular guys, the regular people, all right, they saw it and they took advantage of it, and the big guys didn't like it. So it works. It can work for both sides, the big guy and the little guy, if you pay attention and you're patient. All right.
Yeah. No. And by the way, I'm telling you, if people haven't seen that movie, it is really, really good. It's got why am I forgetting his name right now? But a really good actor that plays the Roaring Kitty character. But Seth Rogen's in it. There's a lot of people that are in it that people will recognize. It really is. It's fascinating, even for people like I mentioned, my nephew and his friends that are watching, and younger people that are getting into stocks. Obviously, we don't know if that will happen again. I'm sure it can, but just to see that the people can make a difference, that you can get involved with stuff if you just do your research and know what you're doing. Paul Dano, that's his name. Paul Dano's the guy.
That is a great movie, and I'll tell you, if Roaring Kitty is listening to us, I'm going to sign him up as a master.
Yes, I know he is. I know he's a fan of the Squatch for my football picks. So hopefully he's bled over to our show here. All right, Glenn, what do you got? Because I'll tell you this, I got to give you guys credit. Not every time you pick a stock, it's going to be great. If everyone was that way, we'd all be Warren Buffett. We're not. All the stocks you guys have given or funds you guys have given on this show since we started about 6 months ago now, they have all made very decent profit, if not really good profit. So, I'm just saying, you guys are masters for a reason. And once again, we'll give the disclaimer after we do this, but you guys know what you're doing. And I think people need to obviously listen to what you guys are saying.
Well, I'm going to go back to the beginning of the show when you were talking about SpaceX. And I basically would have warned people to stay away, because that stock is what's called overinvested, meaning that for the last 10, 15 years, or 20 years, it's been in existence, people have been investing into it. And those are the people who basically get paid off first when it goes public. And if you're not in there first, everybody's going to get in and sell their stock. Everybody in the company, like say you're a guy who works on rockets, you have options coming to you, and the only way to get paid off is to exercise them. So that is going to happen no matter what. That will kind of fade after 6 months, a year, 2 years, and hopefully it'll start going back up again. But right now, my pick is Rocket Lab. It's RKLB, and
great
they're
stock.
Doing a lot of business with the Pentagon right now. And Elon's, burned a lot of bridges, especially in Europe and with the military. And even people in the military don't like to have one vendor for their entire space program right now. And it's SpaceX. But Rocket Lab, just signed, I think it was a $300 million plus contract with the Air Force to put up satellites. This is really working. And if they can, the whole idea of rocketry is it's the nightmare formula of getting something into space using energy. In order to get more energy, more things into space, you need more energy, which is more fuel, which means you need more fuel to get the fuel into space carrying the thing. And it's just whoever can do that the most cheaply changes the price from $1 million a pound down to, say, $100 a pound. That dramatically changes things. And Rocket Lab is basically one of those companies. They've been in business for years. Their stock has already gone through that initial IPO transition, and they're actually making profits, and they're making money from, Uncle Sam, which likes to have, an alternative to SpaceX. And right now, it could be kind of maybe a Ford GM kind of thing or a Coca-Cola Pepsi thing, but Rocket Lab is still making product, and they're working with all these companies. So I think they have a long-term, listen, space technology is a really long horizon.
Oh, yeah.
All right. It could be 5, 10, 20 years. It's like genetic technology or biotech. It could work. That drug might or might not work, but this does work. And whoever can make it cheap enough where you can do manufacturing in space, that's the real holy grail. Like pharmaceuticals and, semiconductors, if you can make them in outer space, it changes how they work in a whole different way. And that's the multi-trillion-dollar industry all these guys are facing or chasing, I should say.
It's a great one. By the way, Elon is bridges both literally and figuratively because he just crashed a rocket into the moon. That's not. How does the moon feel about that? I'm not happy. You got to give the moon some love.
Yeah.
What's that?
We actually crashed a spaceship into the moon on purpose, and then it rattled for a couple hours.
Yes.
Put that up. Mm-hmm.
Tony, what do you got? You guys,
before I give you my pick, I want to make a disclaimer to what you just said, Dan, about us picking everything that's been going up. Excuse me. And we may have in the last, since you've joined us and started hosting for us, Dan.
I can't speak to before that. I just talked about
right. But nobody, including the masters, picks only stocks that go up. It doesn't happen. Not even Warren Buffett. Not to the greatest investors like Jesse Livermore, and nobody picks all stocks that go up. And so I just want to make it clear that we're not trying to make a point that we do that either.
I'd alluded to that. Of course, you can't always do that.
Yeah.
By the way, Tony, it's BD and PD before Dan, after Dan. So that's all I know. All I know is you guys picking stocks that have gone up. But of course, as I alluded to, and I'm glad you brought that up because. Listen, like I said, if everyone picked only stocks that went up, then there would be no point of a stock market.
Right.
So, but I appreciate you bringing that up. So now what is your stock that will go down this week? I'm kidding. What do you got?
No, the one I do like right now, though, is Cisco. Cisco just got knocked down after their earnings report, but they had a good earnings report. They beat on the top and bottom lines. They just didn't give guidance as strong as the market was expecting it. And so it got beat up. It's dropped probably about 10% since their earnings report. It's trading just under 110 today. But Cisco is a provider of the infrastructure for the AI build-outs. And they also acquired Splunk just a couple of years ago. And Splunk is big in data processing and cybersecurity. And I think we're just starting to see that really come to fruition as well. So I think that Cisco, they don't get really aggressive with their guidance anyways. So it wasn't surprising that their guidance wasn't beyond what the market expectations were. And it's traditionally, Cisco does go down after earnings reports, regardless of whether they beat and raise. But outside of the previous quarter, they almost always go down. So Cisco's fallen down just under 110 right now. I think it's a good value. They even pay a dividend. It's not much, but it's 1.5% dividend return. And I think that it's a good place to still participate in the AI build out. And I think we're still in the early innings of the AI build out.
And how can you not love a company called Splunk? I mean, that's just, I need to get you be up and down with Splunk. All right, great stuff for both of you. And speaking of disclaimers, it's a disclaimer fest. Tony, go right ahead and read that disclaimer.
All right, you got it. So all comments made during this podcast are general in nature. Your specific situation may not be appropriate for any or all investments discussed, and past performance is no guarantee of future performance. We do have portfolios that we are invested with our own money in, and we talk about many of those other ones that we're looking at. Marketocracy Masters is a registered investment advisor with the SEC. We're an online investment advisor.
All right, great stuff. And I don't know why it is not going away. That is very weird. I've never had that happen before.
It's very serious.
Yes, it must be. All right, well, we're going to. And it's still not going any. Wait, hold on. There we go. I'm done. I don't know what the heck happened there. All right, great stuff for both of you. Parting shots. We'll start with you, Glenn Bronworth.
The young people you're talking about, if they put in $5 or $10 a day, the market's only open 270 days a year. That's not a lot. If you did some lawn mowing and wash some people's cars, you could probably pull a couple of bucks together every week. And really, it's the long time horizon. It's how long you actually plan on investing. It's as long as you have a paycheck, you should be investing in something. Now, admittedly, you want to meet Maslow's hierarchy of food, water, and shelter. But after that, whatever you got left over, put a little bit into your future.
No, I think that's beautifully said, and I couldn't be or you look at it, and it's not about money. It's like if you're a sports bettor, some guys bet $5, some guys bet $50,000. Or might have small amounts in his stocks, but he's making 10, 15 cents here and there, and he could be more excited. I remember we were at the pool, like a week or so ago, and he had just I told him about Mattel, Tony. He made a little money. He sold it, made 5 cents, and he was like as excited as I would if I hit a $5,000 parlay. And that's great to get people excited about that. So I appreciate you saying that, Glenn. And I'm proud of Orrin and his friends. And like you said, if you put it, instead of spending money, he buys baseball cards and stuff too, which are a good investment these days. But instead of buying that extra pack of bubble gum or the extra case of Miller Lite or Miller High Life, as my grandpa used to have, the champagne of beers, maybe you put, 15, 20 bucks into a stock or $25 into a fund, and you can grow and grow and grow. It really is amazing to, like you guys were saying earlier, making money while you sleep. And it's like a lifetime thing. It can set you up for a long time. Tony, what about you, my friend?
Oh, go ahead. Real quick, one thing. The thing is about collectibles, it's about who wants those collectibles.
Yes, whatever someone will pay. It's only worth what someone will pay for it.
You got it. Baseball cards, sneakers, Furbies, or Beanie Babies, Franklin Mint plates. Whoever wants that. The stock market is like that too. But the difference is you're buying value, or actually a piece of the company as a piece of property, and that can actually scale in value versus a Superman comic or a Mickey Mantle baseball card, something like that. They'll be valuable, but as a store of value, but versus a potential investment that can go up much more in value. Okay.
Nope. Perfectly said. You got there. You took the circuitous route, but you got there. Toad Squatch?
I'm just going to add, sign up for our newsletters, free newsletters, sign up for our investment stock picking contest. You can do that all at marketocracy.io.
All right, great stuff for both of you. For me, I just want to say it's always a pleasure. Football season right around the corner. I got my good people at DTM Squatch Picks fired up to give people some good picks, but I just couldn't be happier to be with you both. For the great Glenn Bronworth and Tony Mitchell, I am Dan Leach saying don't forget next month. We got Roblox bucks coming, so get involved, young people. Don't forget do we know the date of next month's show?
Second Thursday of the month.
Second Thursday of the month. That'll be, I'm going to do it because I don't want to try to figure it out in my head. That will be September 10th, 5 days before my father's 79th birthday. The great Doc Leach, who just had cataract transplant surgery. So he's hanging in there, a little rough this week. But best get well wishes to my dad. But as I mentioned, for the great Tony Mitchell and Glenn Bronworth, I'm Dan Leach. Keep your feet on the ground. Keep reaching for the stars. We'll see you next time on Ring the Bell Investing with the masters of Marketocracy. Till then, take care of yourself.
Thank you.